Hello, this recording will give you an overview of becoming a substitute teacher during the student teaching semester. The information we're sharing also will apply to anyone that is a Grow Your Own candidate or someone in a situation where they're working in a school as a classified assistant while they are student teaching during that semester. We have specific procedures and guidelines if you do choose to be a substitute teacher during your student teaching semester. We have specific guidelines on our student teaching handbook site. If you go to that site, there is a page specifically dedicated to substitute teaching. So we do ask that you refer to that as well. This recording is just a resource that will accompany those procedures. We want to make sure first and foremost that every student teacher understands that you may not serve as a substitute teacher in a school district unless you have been hired by that specific school district to be an emergency substitute teacher during that semester. So if maybe you were an emergency substitute in another district during your clinical coursework, that will not apply in all districts. Each district has to hire their own emergency substitutes. So the school district works with the Kentucky Department of Ed through the Educational Professional Standards Board, EPSB, to help you gain that license. And you have to hold that substitute certificate, or you should not be covering a class or being pulled to do that unless you have agreed and have already been hired by that school district. We do encourage all student teachers to consider it just if they only want to sub for their mentor teacher when maybe they're gone, because usually if they're going to pay somebody to be in that room anyway, you might as well get paid that day. So there's two types of substitute teaching that we're talking about. One of them is just the intermittent, a day here, a day there, not necessarily in the same classroom. Depending on the school district, some school districts just allow you to sub in the school that you are already assigned to student teach. Some of them only let you sub for your mentor teacher when they're away. We have one district, I think, that has you take over for the class that you're assigned to, and that teacher then goes and subs in another room. You would be paid as well as the sub, and the teacher would go cover the other room. But most of them do allow you to sub a day here, a day there, particularly in the school that you're in. And some of them let you even go to other schools, but it has to be in the district that you're assigned to. You can't go across districts here to do an intermittent sub job one day. The other case-by-case basis, we decide the long-term situations. We will decide those as they arise. So as a principal or some school leadership reach out to our office, the Office of Professional Educator Services, and request that a student teacher take over, maybe for a maternity leave, or sometimes it's for other reasons that they haven't filled a vacancy or different reasons. If you're hired in that long-term capacity, the School of Teacher Ed needs to approve that. It also has to be in your certification area. So you cannot take over a maternity leave or any kind of long-term sub position outside of the certification area that you're seeking. And then it also has to be in the district you're already assigned in. We can't, once our assignments start, we can't start crossing districts and all of that. We have to stay within the district you're assigned in. So this is all optional. Both cases are optional. You can choose to have a very traditional student teaching semester, and there is no shame in that. That's okay. This is your semester, your capstone semester to grow and learn, and you can choose this for you. If you're choosing to do some subbing just intermittently for maybe up to the 10 days that we allow at first, if that's all you're going to do, that's okay. If you're not even going to do that, that's okay. If you get in a situation where, because our schools, they don't mean to pressure, but I know our schools really need substitutes. So sometimes unwillingly and unknowingly, possibly, a principal may put some pressure on a student teacher to take over a class or to sub on a day when maybe you're about to teach a really great lesson in your mentor teacher's room and you just don't feel comfortable leaving. you can be honest with those principals. I know that they may seem intimidating, but they're just in a situation where they're trying to cover. But if if you have trouble with that, don't be afraid to reach out to our office and let us kind of intervene for you if we need to, or your university supervisor. But they all mean well. I think just, principals are in a hard situation right now. So, but don't be afraid to speak up. It is very optional. You do not have to choose to do this. If you are choosing to do up to 10 days, a day here, a day there as needed, keep in mind a couple of things. You have to make sure you communicate with your mentor teacher and your university supervisor immediately. So as soon as you take a job for a day, or as soon as a principal asks you to do that, make sure that you communicate with both the mentor teacher and the supervisor to let them know that you're not going to be in the regular assigned classroom that day. If you are supposed to be preparing a lesson or more than one lesson, because maybe you've started taking over several lessons or several class periods that day in that assigned classroom, your mentor teacher is counting on you. So you would have to create some lesson plans. You'd have to have the materials ready. Don't leave your mentor teacher in a lurch. If you're pulled at the very last minute by a principal, then that's kind of on the principal to hopefully work that out with the mentor teacher. But you should be prepared the day you get to class anyway to teach, because if you didn't know you were subbing, you would be prepared to teach. So you should have that ready and available for your mentor teacher. If you're doing intermittent subbing, you may not choose to sub any of your solo week unless your mentor teacher is out. Possibly that could still be a solo day, but we really want your mentor teacher there every day during your solo week. So if we have to extend that a day or so, but do not allow anybody to pull you during solo week. Solo week has a real purpose for you to be in charge all day for the whole week. Now, if you're thinking about long-term subbing, you're thinking, is this good for me? Would I enjoy this? And is that something I should think about? Then I would consider these questions that are on the slide. I would think about, is this something that I can do and that I feel very comfortable with? Can you fly solo? Can you take over a class now and without a mentor teacher modeling for you and offering you feedback, watching you teach every day? Are you comfortable with that? Are you organized? Do you have good time management? Because you're going to have to keep up with a lot of student teaching responsibilities, even if you take a long term, along with new expectations from that school. You would be planning every lesson. You would be attending faculty meetings, all the things you would do as a traditional sub, or a traditional student teacher, but you have that extra responsibility of those students every day. Also ask yourself, are you willing to ask questions when you need to and to say, I need help? If you're not ready to ask for help when you get in those situations, don't take a long-term sub position, because there are going to be days when you need somebody to help you, and you will be assigned a mentor. They just won't see you every day teaching, but they will be available to you in that school and be meeting with you weekly. But you have to be willing and able to ask for help and to speak up when maybe something's not working or you're over your head. That there's no shame in that as well. So if you really think this is for you, long-term subs, we have several of you that have already chosen this. And for this semester, if you're watching this in future semesters, maybe you're considering it. Here is what will happen during the long-term substitute weeks that you're taking over. The university supervisor is going to still observe you for the same amount of formal observations. So 2 per 8 weeks, so a total of 4. Depending on, if you're doing a maternity leave or if you're doing the host semester, they're still going to do those. And you still have to do the lesson plan template. You don't have to do that lesson plan template for every day's lessons, but for those formal observations where you're being observed, you're still going to do the lesson plan template. You're still going to send them 48 hours notice, that template, your supervisor. You're going to have to do the reflection and the post-observation reflection and analysis of your data and send that 48 hours to your supervisor. You will have a mentor teacher. They'll meet with you weekly. They just won't observe you teach, and they won't offer you any feedback on your teaching, but they'll be there to support you in lots of other ways with planning, dealing with parents, all the things that come up. That mentor teacher is supposed to be assigned to you to really help troubleshoot all of those things. If that you don't find that that's happening, speak up to your principal, call our office here at the Office of Professional Ed, reach out to your supervisor. We want this still to have a mentor, and that is what the district has agreed to. The district also will want to have their own leadership helping you, I'm sure. So please be mindful to not be afraid to speak up in regards to those things. Your sources of evidence will continue the same except for 3 areas. But you'll have to keep the others updated, because that's the only way we can evaluate you on domains 1 and 4. That's where those things come from. And with no mentor teacher feedback being given to you, we really need to be able to see that. You still participate in all the EDU 489 or SMED 489 classes and seminar sessions. And for your final grade or your midterm grade, your supervisor will consult that district assigned mentor or the principal or some leadership in that building to consult on how things are going. Each observation, they'll consult them at the grading time. They will have input. Just like in a traditional student teaching placement, your mentor teacher that sees you every day would be the one consulting the supervisor for grading. So the sources of evidence, that still the Google site continues there the whole time, even if you are during a long-term sub. There are 3 areas you do not have to do. That's the weekly responsibility log. So we know you're making lesson plans and all, and you don't have to upload any of those. You don't have to upload a snapshot of what you're doing. You do not have to do that. Mentor teacher feedback form, your mentor teacher will not see you teach. They will, unless it's in a school that they can come in during planning. But they will just be meeting with you outside of the classroom. You also do not have to do the observations of other classrooms. So you can, and I think that's a great way to learn, but you don't have to fill out the reflection or the template or any of that during the time that you're a long-term sub. If you return to traditional student teaching, or if you start in traditional student teaching and then do a long-term, whenever you're not in a long-term position, you go back to doing these 3 areas as well. So, it might be that you only take over for a month or for 2 months. Well, then those other weeks, you do all the sources of evidence like everybody else in a traditional setting. Please remember, we're here to help. Your school will assign a mentor teacher during long-term subs. Your school leadership will also be supporting you. They'll have people that are there to help. You'll have your university supervisor as always. You will have us here at the Office of Professional Ed, the School of Teacher Ed, your clinical instructors that you've gotten to know in prior semesters. They're here to guide and help, especially if you're in a long-term situation. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We are here to help you. We want you to be successful. But we do wish you the best of luck. Again, this is on a case-by-case basis. Would we do a long-term sub? If you decide to do intermittent subbing, that's great too. And after 10 days, you can ask for more if you decide you want more days. We'll usually always be able to grant that unless things aren't being successful, maybe like your source of evidence aren't being updated. But regardless, if you even decide I don't want to sub at all, that's okay. You got this. It's your semester. You make the most of it. This capstone semester that you want, we want you to be successful and thrive. So just don't be afraid to speak up when you need us, and good luck.